Hello guys, so before I became a profitable trader, I failed so much, In my process of trying to learn, I made so many mistakes. I had about 3-year period where I was not making any money in the market, and it was, a very mental period. I often took breaks from trading. There are times I would just go, a month without being in the market because you're trying to do so much, but you're not seeing any progress, and you start to have so many doubts on whether this thing is going to work. Now, fast forward 7 years later, when I'm now profitable for a number of years, if I look back at my learning phase, to be honest, I think those mistakes I was making, that tough experience I went through, was probably a blessing in disguise. And at the time I was going through these things, probably I couldn't have seen it. At that point in time, you're just frustrated and questioning whether you are following the right path because nothing is probably making sense. You've learned so many things, but you can't see yourself achieving that consistency in the markets. And one thing I came to understand after becoming profitable is very many traders underestimate the role of you failing so many times, the role of you getting that first-hand experience in the markets, making those mistakes, and how that can build you eventually into becoming a very resilient and consistent trader. So often we talk about, learn price action, learn this, do this, but at the end of the day, in that process of learning, what I've come to understand is that failing that most people fear to fail, those mistakes that you're probably doing, those constant frustrations you're going through as you backtest and things are not making sense. The minute you'll be able to overcome them, it's those things which will build that resilience in you and you eventually become so good in trading. So basically, I'll just be sharing with you about learning from experience in the markets and learning from mistakes. Because as much as you can do mistakes, you also don't just want to be doing the same mistakes over and over. If you keep repeating the same mistakes, of course, at the end of the day, you're not learning from them. And it doesn't mean just because you're making mistakes, you're going to become a profitable trader, right? So from my own understanding, I think the core foundation of what builds a consistent trader over time, the core foundation is majorly mastering the markets and mastering yourself. Things like strategies, etc. are also very important. But at the end of the day, if you have a strategy and you've not mastered the market, you've not mastered yourself, your behavior, etc., you still will struggle. So the core foundation of what will build you into becoming a trader over time, to overcome your drawdown periods, to go through those periods where the market is not behaving well and still make money and be here regardless of the market conditions, is that number one, you have a proper understanding of how the market moves and why it moves in a certain way. And lastly, mastering yourself, mastering your behavior, because now this is where you're building your psychology, your mental strength in the market. And overall, as long as you have these two things, I think even if the market conditions are tricky, long term, you'll still be able to make money in the market. Now, how do you get to a place where you've mastered the market and most importantly, mastered yourself, unless it's from experience, right? For you to master yourself, it means you have to make so many mistakes first so that you can now see whenever you made this mistake, this is what happened next. This was the consequence, and you focus on improving those mistakes. So it tells you that there is a role that those mistakes play in building you into becoming a trader who's mastered themselves in the market. So I think this is one of the things, again, which can't be taught. No one can teach you how to master yourself, how to master your psychology. You can get the information in terms of the things you are required to do, but it is still you who needs to build yourself into becoming that consistent trader. Build yourself into mastering your emotions, your behavior, your discipline. That is not something that anyone can transfer to you. So usually when many traders are learning, they want to have a very smooth learning process. You just want to find someone on the internet to teach you a certain concept and it will work flawlessly with very few issues. You execute and you make money. Many traders fear to lose money. Many traders don't want to make so many mistakes. But I've come to understand that if you must become a profitable trader, you must go through the process of losing first for you to now understand how bad it feels to lose. So that in future, you'll get to a place where you don't want to waste your money around because you know how those losses affected you. Also, these losses will teach you some very hard lessons. It's these losses that will allow you to be disciplined the next time you are in the market, because you'll be remembering, whenever I did this mistake, it cost me X amount of money. And had I just been disciplined in the market, I wouldn't have taken that loss. So whether you like it or not, it's a process you must go through. And if you're in your early trading years or early trading stages, don't be so afraid to try out different stuff. Don't be so afraid to take those losses, to make those mistakes. Just make sure you're constantly journaling them so that you can see how they affected you and what you can do better to improve yourself. All the good traders I've seen out there who have a great track record, one thing for sure, they had a period of their trading where they really struggled a lot. And the aim is not to glorify the struggle, but just to help you understand that there is a role that it plays to assisting you to not only master the markets, but also master yourself. So this is how you learn from experience. It means you try out different stuff. It means when you're still learning and you're not profitable yet, or you're struggling with different things, be open to learning different price action concepts. Be open to trying different trading approaches that you see out there. Be open to testing different markets, different instruments, different sessions, different time frames. Try out almost everything you're seeing out there, even if it means trying to trade during news to see how the markets behave. I think in your early trading years, most of the time, you'll probably do all these things. And the truth is, there's nothing wrong with it at the beginning, because it assists you to now see how the markets behave. And it is through this trial and error that you now are able to start spotting certain markets which you think move better than others. It is through this experience that you're able to decide, oh, like for myself, I'll be trading USD/JPY and I'm not trading gold, for example. No one came and told me, Rick, stop trading gold, start trading USD/JPY. I learned it from my own experience. Why? Because I already tried gold enough and I figured out, you know what? I'm not so happy with how this market moves and I'm struggling to keep up with it. Does it mean it's a bad market? Of course not. But I was just able to understand this thing doesn't work out for me. How did I decide to trade USD/JPY? I tried out many other different markets and I was able to understand that from all these markets, I can see there's something unique with how the JPYs are moving. I can see when I try my approaches there, something is making more sense. It's probably easier for my analysis to work in that market. If I'm looking for the trend, I can see it's easier to spot it, how it behaves on the lower time frame. Like I can do a very easy interpretation of that market. And for the most time, I can see it respects exactly what I expect it to do. So again, no one told me start trading USD/JPY. I knew that from my own experience. And this is what I'm telling you, that unless you are focusing to build yourself by being in the markets more, trying out different things by yourself, regardless of any mentorship, then you are missing out a lot. And sooner or later, these will just be seen in your trading, because you'll get to periods where you have drawdowns and you're struggling even mentally, psychologically. You'll get to periods where you're having 2 losing months and you can't understand what is happening. You'll get to periods where you're seeing someone saying on the internet, gold has been trending, why aren't you trading gold? Then you start asking yourself, by the way, why am I not trading gold? So you find yourself, you are easily swayed by what people are saying, by some changes in the market condition, by opinions, and you don't have your own grounding. But anyone who's already gone through the trial and error phase, what happens is that everything people are talking about, you tried it already. If I see someone saying they made X amount of money during NFP, it cannot make me want to now try to gamble during NFP, because I understand I did these things myself for almost 1 year and I saw the consequence of that. I also understand that there are times someone will show you they made money from NFP, but the reality is, if they are to show you the whole NFPs of that year, if in a year, let's say we have 12 NFPs, they show you the PNL of NFP 1 to 12 for the whole year. You'll notice here they made money next NFP, they lost 3-4 times, but they didn't show you that one. So at the end of the year, you might find their trade during NFP were at a negative, but you are just focused on what you've seen on the internet. But how do you know these things? If I just come and tell you don't trade during this NFP, etc., don't try to gamble, you might think this guy probably doesn't know what he's saying. But if you've done it by yourself and you've gone through that experience, you know better, to a point that nobody needs to convince you. You don't get influenced and swayed by what you see on the internet. And this is what actually builds you into being a real trader. This is what true mastery looks like. That's why it becomes easy for you to become patient. That's why it becomes easy for you to just sit on your hands, do nothing and wait for your setup. Not because you're so good, not because you were born with some talent, of becoming a patient human being. No, it's just because you did the opposite for too long, you journaled it, you saw how it affected you, and you got to a point where it became so costly that you had no option but to learn from your mistakes and your experiences. So if you are trying to become a profitable trader, I just want you to understand that do not underestimate the role of being out there, trying out different things, and most importantly, focusing to know the things which are affecting you negatively so that you can learn from them and use them as a building block to bettering yourself as a trader, bettering how you look at the markets, how you take your setups, how disciplined you are, etc. Now, before we continue, let me share with you about Market Countdown, a mobile app which assists you to find all the updated information in terms of the trading sessions, fundamentals. So if you go inside the app, you do get to see all sessions when they open, and you can get notified simply by coming in and selecting the sessions as to which you want to get notifications on. So anytime the session is opened, you'll get a notification. And now here you can see the times are synchronized to your local time. Like right now, it's just about 3 minutes before London opens, and you can see I do have the countdown here. So if I'm trading during London, I'll get my notifications and I can now go to look into my charts. Same thing with fundamentals. You can select if you want to receive high impact news, which you'll find all of them here. The best thing, you have a home screen widget. So without opening the app, you can still see your fundamentals here, the time they're being released, whether it's a red folder fundamental etc, and the sessions. So links in the video description. You can download the app using the QR code. Otherwise, let's get back into the video. So not only do you want to master yourself, but I also said you want to master the market. Now in this, I'm talking about the market movements, the patterns, basically just understanding the price action and how different markets move. Again, you can learn these things from a mentorship or from YouTube. They'll give you an idea. But there is the part which you learn by just spending chart time. Look, one thing many traders get wrong is they think because they have a profitable trader that they follow, you can just copy their strategy and that's it. The reality is, regardless of having any mentorship, chart time is not something you can overlook. You can't think that because you've learned a specific strategy, now your work is just to wait for entries, etc, and you're not doing any chart time. You see, you need to understand something. Having a profitable strategy does not mean you can be a consistently profitable trader. If you join my mentorship and all I teach you is how to trade like me, I trade USDJPY most of the time and CAD JPY. So imagine you come into my mentorship and all I teach you is how to trade USDJPY and CAD JPY. And I actually give you a profitable strategy. Will you make money with it? Yes, you will. But have I really taught you to become a consistently profitable trader? Of course I haven't. All I've done is taught you an entry criteria that I use to get setups. That doesn't make you a trader. That makes you someone who has a profitable strategy. And you can make some money for as long as that system works. And as long as you can follow and execute it. That is why I personally believe in helping people to understand the process of building a system, the process of building your own strategy. Because at the end of the day, we have different personalities. You might be in the market and you want to become a swing trader and I don't swing trade. So instead of just giving you a copy paste of do this and you'll get a trade in the market, it's better for me to help you understand the mechanics behind building a system. What am I supposed to look for? How am I testing my markets? What are the things I need to have in place before I can determine this strategy can work or not? So one mistake that many traders do is they are so focused on finding a profitable strategy. Now, you need to be only focused on mastering the markets and mastering yourself. Using the same example, if all I've given you is my strategy, meaning I've just given you my entry criteria, then you make money with it. But 2 years later, the market conditions change and you notice this system doesn't work well anymore. I can hardly find profitable trades. If all you knew was my strategy, then you are screwed because you are not a trader. You're just someone who had a strategy. And at this point in time, you'll feel very lost. On the other hand, myself, I understand the mechanics of building a system. And that's because I've mastered the market movements. I understand price action from a very wide perspective. I can look at the markets and know the best levels as to where I should be looking for entries, etc, why I can't take trades at certain levels. I can take time to study different markets and try to see which one is respecting my ideologies more than the other. So you see, even if the strategy stops working, myself, the person who built it, I won't be struggling so much. I can easily go back and try to readjust it and see what I can add or minus to make it effective. Because I wasn't just someone who has a strategy, I was someone who had built it and I understand what makes this system work and what makes this system to not work. And if I get to a point where I can tell this system just can't make money, then I'll be open to trying to build something else. But again, I understand the whole process of building a system. So in my trading right now, I've had multiple strategies. My first 3 prop firm accounts. It was a 6K, 10K, and a 20K that I passed, got funded, and I did payouts. Back then, I wasn't even doing YouTube videos. I think with the 20K, probably I did some videos about it 2 or 3 years ago. But with those accounts, I was using a completely different strategy, which I had built over time, experience, and it was just more of using supply, demand, price action. Fast forward some years later, I'm 300K funded and I'm using a completely new strategy, which I also built myself. I didn't copy from anyone. So how am I able to do all these things? It's because I have mastered the markets. And how do you master the markets? Through chart time. Spend hours and hours looking at the charts, trying to apply those concepts, trying to test out different variables in different markets, different time frames. And what happens is that you will start to spot consistent patterns that maybe other people are not seeing. Ask yourself why I might do for you a USDJPY trade breakdown. You might have been looking at the same market yesterday expecting a buy trade, but you might not probably see the same thing that I saw. Or maybe you won't find the trade at the same place like I did, because I've been testing it out and I've been able to find my own repetitive patterns that I've been seeing in the market. That's how I was able to discover that before I take a buy trade, the previous day candle should be bullish. It's not something that anyone told me. It is something I discovered through spending a lot of chart time. So, long story short, I just wanted to tell you in this video that make sure you are trying to learn from your experience in the market. Make sure even if you have a mentor, you still spend hours and hours back testing out different things for yourself. That is the only way that you'll master how the markets move. That is the only way that you'll be able to build your own strategies from scratch. That is the only way that you'll be able to find your personality in the markets. Learn from people as much as you want, but don't overlook the role of you building yourself into becoming a consistently profitable trader. At the end of the day, it is you who builds yourself, no one else. So that's it for this video. I hope you guys learned something. Till next time, peace.